Live. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Welcome, family. Once again, welcome. Peace, family, to everyone out there. This is Brother Jay. Welcome back to another episode of the Waking Giant News Show. As again, I am your host, Brother Jay, chair of the Ministry of Information for the Phoenix L.O.C., and also your host of the Waking Giant News Show. Today, again, is my guest, my brother Tramikis Muhammad. Please introduce yourself to the audience as if people don't know you already, but just for those who've been living under a rock, let them know who you are, brother, real quick.
Peace, family. My name is Brother Derrick, the chair of the Phoenix Local Organizing Committee for Justice, or L.O.C. But most of all, your brother in the street, your brother in the office, your brother in the hall. I'm your brother, just your brother.
Just your brother, absolutely, man. Well, so am I. I'm just your brother. I'm just a brother. I'm just a brother who, just like you, we decided. You know what I'm saying? We heard the calling of the need to walk in the steps of our ancestors and put in this work for freedom and liberty for our people. So
yes,
here we are, man. So in that manifestation, or in that vein, in that same vein, here we are with the Waking Giant News Show. So today, I like to talk about a few things. Last time we spoke, we were talking about the Juneteenth becoming a holiday, and I kind of cut it a little bit for time's sake, but I wanted you to expound a little bit more on that, because we understand the history of Juneteenth as far as what happened, and I think it was General Sherman or one of these generals come in and to Galveston, Texas, which is in southeast Texas, almost right at the border, near the border of Louisiana, but it's right on the beach. It's a coastal city, and came in there and delivered the news that the slaves were freed 2 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, as we understand, the Emancipation Proclamation it didn't truly free the enslaved. We kind of got that on our own, and then there were political motives behind that, just like there are political motives behind making Juneteenth a federal holiday. How do you explain that, brother? How do you explain
brother, one of the things that we constantly deal with is this deception. We have a lesson in the Nation of Islam, and part of that lesson, it talks about us being tricked in some ways into slavery, and it says that there was no one there to speak his own language. There is something about language and lack of understanding of language that allows people to use language to trick you. So the language is there. We made it a federal holiday, or they made it a federal holiday. The language is there, the Emancipation Proclamation. But in both instances, you free the people in terms of Juneteenth without land. You free the people without wealth. You free the people without education. So then, quite naturally, in that freedom is not freedom, because the people don't have the knowledge, the wisdom, understanding, know-how, or resources to take advantage of the newfound freedom that they were, quote unquote, given. Right? So that's that reality. We also know that the Emancipation Proclamation only freed the slave in part, particularly in terms of violation of law. That slavery is legal in the United States of America, and it exists in the United States of America in the form of prison system. And we know that at the same time that they put that provision there, they were making laws, black codes, as they call them, laws that would outlaw many of the behaviors and practices of black people at that time. Same thing with Juneteenth. It's beautiful for aesthetics. It's beautiful for PR purposes to put our wonderful freedom fighter, our sister, one of our elders, behind Joe Biden as he signed the bill into law, right? And that looks good. But then there are other laws on the table, reparations that we asked for, or not laws, but other demands on the table, reparations that we asked for that have not been given. The George Floyd Act that has not been passed,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are many, many others that we could name and go down the line. Although the was his name Derrick Chauvin was found guilty, there have been many murders since his guilt verdict. As a matter of fact, there was a young black boy, a young black brother, I believe 17 years old, that was being killed by the police who said that she mistook her gun for a taser, her taser for a gun. At the same time his trial was going on, a young black man's life was being lost at the hands of law. So again, as we said last week, a symbol without substance. So, and I will say this as well. When you talk about the freedom of black people, when we went into cities and states and we began to establish black towns, and we began to establish our own Black Wall Street after slavery, the period of Reconstruction. Uh, um, we've seen the jealousy and the envy and the hatred arise and the racism arise and white supremacist mindset arise in this country that proved to us that we didn't in fact have what they were offering. It was only permission that was being given, right? So it's a lot we can go into to delve into that, brother. But bottom line is, these are weapons of mass distraction.
Absolutely, and it appears that only a certain segment of our population is becoming distracted or is distracted by such a thing, and it's not the youth, that's for sure. And people I dare to say it, even in our age range, we're not deceived by that because we've lived long enough to see this type of deception over and over and over again. We've lived long enough to see this where others haven't. So not only, in my opinion, brother, is it a feckless activity. It's disrespectful in a sense because you're gonna at one hand pass this with the quickness. But the George Floyd bill been sitting there for a year, nothing's happened. The anti-lynching bill's been sitting there for a couple decades, nothing's happened.
Right.
So, but the Asians get federal legislation to help them and money, but we can't get protection for our black women. We can't get protection for our children. We can't get protection. But they can make a proclamation, though. They can make a proclamation and say, you know what? We acknowledge what's happened to you.
This happened.
Okay. Have a good day. And that's it. Have a good day. And, be satisfied with that. Go pray to Jesus and you'll be good. And that's literally how it goes. And then don't talk about it anymore. That's how we've been treated over the last 70 years, at least. Why can't that generation, the one that was kind of the initiating foot soldiers, so to speak, in this civil rights movement en masse, why can't they recognize that this is nothing but an empty gesture of we see you, but you're still not going to have any power?
Well, I can't speak. I would say it like this. There are always, as you talked about before, those of us who are conscious, who are aware, and then inside of that conscious and aware group, there are those who are bold and fearless. But there are also those who would rather go along to get along. Right? I was having a conversation with someone today, and I think it's important that we all go back and study the civil rights movement, particularly when we get into 1968 and the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King and the Poor People's Campaign. and understand the difference of what took place after Dr. King was assassinated with the Poor People's Campaign, as opposed to what Dr. King was asking for. So when Dr. King was getting and revving up, he was saying that we going for our check. He was saying that America had not done right by our people. He talked about land that had been given to immigrants in this country when they came to this country. He talked about the economic impact of Black people if we were to pull our dollars out and make demands based on our dollars. Then he said, not that we would demand civil rights. Remember when they had the conversation with Dr. King, go back and listen to the interviews, and they talked about the civil rights movement. They asked him, had the civil rights movement died since they had got this bill and they got that passed? He said, no, it hasn't died. It's going to the next stage. So what Dr. King was advocating for, which got him assassinated, number one, he was advocating for economic power. He became a voice of economic development for our community. That's what he wanted. He said that once we make the power structure feel the pain, right? He said redistribute the pain. He said then once we redistribute the pain, he said then they'll come back to the table of negotiation. I'm paraphrasing his words. You can go listen for yourself. He said, and once they come to the table of negotiation, he said, then we can tell them we want a part of what Black people put into this economy. And we want to put it in an economic fund. And that we would determine what that economic fund would be used for, but it was for the development of our community. That's what got him assassinated. That was one of the things that got him assassinated. The other thing that got him assassinated is that he took and he was connecting our struggle internationally. And America has always been against the bringing to the attention of the international world. That's why they were mad at Putin the other day. Putin said we have an old saying in Russia that if you look in the mirror and you ugly, don't get mad at the mirror, because he was pointing out the wrongs of America as it relates to Black people at the same time that the interviewer was trying to point out what Russia was doing wrong to its own people, right? I'm bringing that point up to say they never wanted the international community to see America in an ugly light. So that was the other thing that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated for. That's critical. Those points, those things are critically important for us to understand. Now, I say that to say this, that after Dr. King was assassinated and he was no longer there to espouse the idea and the vision of what he had, those who did not necessarily agree with him, but had leadership and influence, took the march in another direction and had meetings with legislators and policy makers to determine what would come out of that, right? And of course, one of the things that came out of that, I think, was the public accommodations bill? Yeah. I think that's what came out of that, right? Yeah. So I'm saying that to say that generation has, in a sense, been propped up in front of the present generation, right? Remember, they always put in front of us the people that they are comfortable with. This is why you can't find Minister Farrakhan on Twitter. You can't find them on Facebook. You can't find them on Instagram. Well, you can find them on Twitter, but they took them off of most social media sites, right? And have begun this process of censorship. Same thing they did with Brother Reza Islam, as he talked about the vaccination. Censored him, took him down. Matter of fact, they brought that brother up before Congress, right? Anybody that is going to be a voice that is in opposition to what the narrative, what they're painting, what they want the people to believe, somebody who's not going to push hard for the truth, those are the ones they're going to prop in front of us as mouthpieces. But this has to happen. It has to happen because the masses of the people, as you already talked about, the masses of the people have to see what it is. We have to see what it is for what it is, right? And it can no longer be an illusion. The masses of the people have to be completely awakened because it's our time. It's our time. And I know I'm being long winded, brother, but
No, you good.
I told you I was tired. I didn't. but 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 no, I'm gonna say this last point. The mass of the people have to be awakened for this reason. Dr. King said it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it. Marcus Garvey said it. Young Minister Louis Farrakhan said it. Noble Drew Ali said it. Many have put it in writing and spoke about it throughout history. Even as we talked about last week, the 12 leaders, the 12 black leaders in Savannah, Georgia, when they asked them, do you want to have a society or civilization uh, uh, with among Caucasian people with white people, or do you want to be on your own? They said we want to be on our own. Dr. King said a temporary separation may have to take place. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in point number 4 of what the Muslims want, talked about us needing a separate state or territory of our own, that it must be minerally rich and have access to the sea. The Honorable Marcus Garvey started the UNIA movement for separation, independence, self-reliance, and independence. One God, one nation, one people. Now, for those who say, I don't like that, them Negroes didn't know what they were talking about. Thomas Jefferson fought to the end of his life for separation. That he felt that black people should be given a separate territory or state of their own, that they should be given provisions to take care of themselves, and they should be given arms to defend themselves. That's what Thomas Jefferson said. Abraham Lincoln, honest Abe, he was very honest. Abraham Lincoln also felt that black people should have a separate state or territory of their own. He talked about continents in Africa, and they also talked about somewhere in South America. This is not a new idea. This is a very real idea. Now, for the Negro who don't care about none of what I just said, you already separated. All you have to do is go outside. You in the ghetto, you in the hood, you're already in a separate place. You're already separated in the school system. You are separated physically and ideologically. You are also separated health-wise. You are separated by economy. You are separated by education. You have already been separated. We're not talking about segregation. We're talking about separation. Dr. King said that we may need to have a temporary separation until we are able to gain power and control of our own community and our own destiny. Then he said we can talk about the idea of integration. But we've lost through the idea of integration. We integrated into their schools, lost our own. We started going to their hotels, ours closed down. We started going to their movie theaters, ours closed down. Listen, it wasn't just that Black Wall Street was burned down, because they did a lot of work to rebuild Black Wall Street. But when integration came along, then we walked away from what we had built in Black Wall Street and the rebuilding of Black Wall Street so that we could be in what we thought was better. We thought the grass would be greener on the other side, and it ain't.
It ain't. Two things.
Our own line, brother.
That's right. Two things out of what you just said. Number one, that's not the king that we hear them always quote.
No, not at all.
No, that's not that guy. And number two, at the beginning and towards the middle of the 20th century, we're not even going to talk about slavery, because that was already the maldistribution of wealth. That was already making sure all the resources, we would never see any of that. In order to continue that after emancipation, they stomped out. When you look at all the race massacres that happened across the country from 1895 to about 1943, okay? When you look at that time span, that was about 3 generations of Black people whose wealth was destroyed and wiped away. So that has an effect on us, who are 1, 2 generations removed from the civil rights era. You see what I'm saying? And the people from the civil rights era were the children of those who and the grandchildren of those who had their wealth stripped away. So that's part of the conversation. So to bring it back to the whole Juneteenth thing, why make it a federal holiday? And that's something that, I need brothers and sisters to really think about. And I'm sure a lot of us are smart enough to look at that and say, we're not accepting that. That's bull. Now on to the next one. This either Friday or Saturday this week is the verdict of Derrick Chauvin. Okay.
You mean the sentencing? The sentencing?
For his sentencing. Yeah, his sentencing. His sentencing is either Friday or Saturday. And I heard a few people out there, and in the black media sphere, say that a weekend verdict or decision or sentencing is usually a bad sign. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it's a cop, because if you see, they boarded up the cities once, then they're boarding up, they're kind of preparing. There's less traffic on the weekends, no one's downtown, so they're able to mobilize quicker and get to where they need to quicker in case the verdict comes back or the sentencing comes back less than what is expected. So with that said, and Keith Ellison, who is the DA or whatever, either in that county or he's over California or whatever, Keith Ellison, he put out an article or made a statement saying that he wanted to make sure that the judge goes light on him. And that's a mentality, brother. Why would you put that out there? So what I want to pose to you is, first of all, the impact of this verdict or this decision, the sentencing. Whether I think he's up for 40 years max for his crime, for the lynching of George Floyd. But who knows what kind of sentence he can get.
I guess you just want me to comment on the sentence,
Yeah,
or you have a question for me? Okay.
No, comment on that.
Hey, brother, I'm not of the opinion that we will ever get justice in the courts. We are people, a teacher said this, and it's true, who don't know what justice looks like. We don't know what justice looks like, right? I would hope that the courts would sentence him to the maximum, but I'm not one who would be even satisfied with that, because to have authority over a person's life, understand this, that if most likely, if he had not been a police officer and he would have kneeled on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 26 seconds and gathered that many spectators. You've seen the witness stand. You had a brother who was an MMA fighter. You had a Caucasian woman who was a paramedic who was present.
Mm-hmm.
You had children who were present. You had an older brother. All these people testified. You had the brother who was in the car, the sister who was in the car with George Floyd. You had many, many witnesses that witnessed this. If it had not been for him being a police officer, most likely I believe that any one of them would have stopped him, pushed him off his neck, any of those things. Man, you killing him. The reason they didn't do anything is because he used his authority as a police officer to enforce intimidation on the people as he took another man's life. And he did it very cold, and he did it very wicked. It was very wicked what he did. So then, what kind of punishment is the necessary or just punishment for a man who takes the life of another human being in that way? The Bible says an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and a life for a life.
Mm-hmm.
That is the kind of justice that would satisfy the souls of our people in the truest sense. And I'm not saying that anybody should go out and do anything to harm anyone. But what I'm saying is that's what justice looks like. They have no desire for justice. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote in a book called Message to the Black Man, is a letter between him and the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan at that time. A back and forth correspondence that was shared in that book. And in that book, the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan said that in the future, we won't wear white robes. Said we will wear police uniforms. We will wear judges' robes, right? So this type of hatred and wickedness has shifted into places of authority. They shifted into political houses. And they wear nice suits, and they wear straight ties, they wear robes as judges, things of that nature. So at the end of the day, whatever they do with their brother is what they please. I'm not looking to them for justice for the life of George Floyd. I believe that will happen in another way at another time. In a not so distant future. We have to remember this is not a blip on the radar. This is part of a consistent behavior that has taken place for the past 65 years, I believe, at this point, or 69 years at this point, that this type of behavior has taken place, right? So this is a long string of killings, unjust killing of Black men, women, and children that has taken place in this country and continue to take place in this country. Do we believe that a conviction or a long sentence of Derrick Chauvin would do anything to change the heart and mind and condition of law enforcement officers who have been thoroughly embedded with the idea of racism? Do we think that this is going to change you have a United States military, you talk about the police department, you have a United States military that now has a Black Secretary of War who had to shut down the military in a sense to deal with the blatant, widespread racism that's in the ranks of the military. And many of these same people get out of the military and they come and they join the police department. You have police officers that we learn and we know who go from county to county, state to state, who get in trouble in one police department and go and get a job in another. They haven't dealt with the systemic racism in the police department. They haven't dealt with the widespread hatred of Black and brown people in the police department, and they have not stopped the police officers from killing Black people by even now we're looking at convicting police officers. He won't be the first. It's not a lot, but he won't be the first to be convicted.
Right. We won't be the first.
This is a necessary sacrifice, I believe. Not that he's not guilty, but he's a necessary sacrifice because the economy of the country, the reputation of the country can't take it, right? But brother, this is business as usual. I'm not even moved, to be honest. It's business as usual.
And that's the point. That's the point that I wanted to get to, because at the end of the day, we're still in someone else's system. We're still in a system of injustice until we as a community produce justice. This is how it's going to be. And, we're sitting on pins and needles like we were 100 years ago. And speaking of that, I have a book by the sister Ida B. Wells Barnett, and it's called the Red Book. And the reason why, I believe, I don't know if there was an explanation, I don't remember, it's here in my library, why she named it that. But when you read them through them pages, all you see is blood soaked all through the pages, and the familiar stories of either police brutality, innocent black people just walking down the street being accosted or lynched, or if you were a woman being raped and no justice coming out of it. And this is going back to the late 1800s when she started, when she wrote this book. She wrote this book about the lynchings in America because her best friend, or one of her really close friends, he was a brother, was an entrepreneur in Memphis, Tennessee. Okay. And he was well known. He was very popular. People liked him. He was a nice guy, and he owned a business. One thing led to another. The brother ended up lynched, and he owned a printing press. That's what he did. He owned a printing press. He was in the media, just like this right here, where he was in the media. And long story short, the white supremacists came, burned down his printing press business, lynched him simply because he was an entrepreneur. He was a black man who dared to, and he was hiring his own people. He was a black man who dared to do that and dared to have the unmitigated gall to be smart enough to actually create a newspaper, because that's what he was. He was a publisher. He created the newspaper guy. Now it's coming back to me. And it would traumatize her to the point to where she, she actually had to flee for a while once you know her story. But she just started, that was the impetus on her starting to document, these acts throughout, a 20-year period, brother. You know what I'm saying? The sister was risking her life to document this stuff. And I'm only bringing this up because when you hear the stories, when you see what she wrote, man, I see the same exact movements, white splaining explanations on why something had to happen. They had to go extra hard on the brother, but the white, it was so many, not only the larger enclaves that were burnt down and the people were lynched, it was these little backwood towns too, and fast forward to today, these little backwood towns, their police department and the revenue they bring in from harassing the people, is a part of the city budget, in some of these places. Like if they have to have a certain amount of tickets and certain amount of fees and fines and shuffling people in and out of the system on a daily basis in order to supply 10, 15, 20% of the city budget in these small towns. So these small towns are over policed, okay, for monetary reasons, and and then that's when you start seeing all this stuff happen. So I'm with you in that sense, man, to where at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what his sentence is. George Floyd is not here. Okay. But then we got to think about what happened during that year. We also lost Ahmaud Arbery earlier in that year. Then we lost the sister that got her, Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake, okay, and they're in Atlanta. So all of this stuff was happening during this time frame, but yet we're still, some of us, dare I say, a majority of us, and I could be wrong, are still depending on the system to deliver justice that has yet to do it. So that type of justice we'll never see, brother. Not in a righteous manner. Not in a righteous manner. So I'm with you on that, man. Any final words on that? Then we'll move to the next subject.
Well, all I wanted to add to that, one of the things that we as a people have to realize and really accept, we don't want to, but we really have to accept this reality, right? If we're going to change the condition of what's happening in our community. When it comes down to, are you there, brother?
Yeah, I'm at.
Okay. When it comes
Yeah.
down to police brutality, we're going to have to learn how to protect, defend, and police our own community. If we're not protecting, defending, and policing our own community, then we leave the door open for these law enforcement agencies to come in and deal with our community whatever way they want to. But listen, when I go out in the street and I see these young sisters out here and these young brothers out here, I see my cousins, I see my auntie, I see my mother, I see my brother, I see my uncle, I see my father, and I have a different heart when I'm looking at them than most see. I say this, and I'll share this, brother, to the end of the earth. We did the police training in Detroit, Michigan, the sensitivity training with the police department in Detroit, Michigan. And I will never forget when we asked the police officers what were their sentiment about the Black community. And one of the officers was bold enough and free enough and comfortable enough to say that she's seen the people in our community as filthy bags of shit, and that they get what they deserve. You hear me, brother?
I hear you.
This is in Detroit, Michigan, a predominantly Black city, the home of Motown. So we're not talking from no high position of theory. This is the reality that we deal with in our community. Our communities are over policed. One of my beautiful brothers, Captain Dennis Muhammad, he says this all the time. He uses this example. He said, if you go to any business, if you go to a restaurant, you go to and you ask the waiter to bring you a fish sandwich, and he bring you a chicken sandwich, right? If you go to any if you go to Home Depot, you go in there and you looking for assistance, and you ask the man in the lighting aisle about the lighting, and he don't have no knowledge of it. Or if you hired an employee on your job and he didn't do the job well, you would fire them. But in our community, crime doesn't go down, crime goes up. And we have the heaviest police presence. So if the police are there to fight crime, to end crime, and they're over policing our community, and the violence hasn't changed, the rape hasn't changed, the murder hasn't changed, then why do we continue to allow the police department to be the primary force of our community in terms of policing us, in terms of bringing peace and decency to serve and protect? They do none of that.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? We have to have this mentality of I'm going to defend my own community. I'm going to protect my own community. I'm going to police my own community and put in check that which is wrong in my community. I'm going to change the condition of my community. If we don't develop that mentality, then we will always be protesting. We will always be marching. We will always be rioting. We'll always be in the courtroom on pins and needles, hoping they give him the sentence that he deserves. But our babies deserve better. Our women and our children deserve better. They deserve for our community to be safe. They deserve for our community to be decent places to live. And we can't continue to depend on the police department to do that for us, because they have not done their job and they have no intention on doing their job. They are not getting billion-dollar police budgets into these cities so that they can better police the community, so they can serve and protect. They are militarizing the police departments. They are equipping police department with military training, military equipment. They're sending police departments to the state of Israel to be trained on policing techniques, on how to police a population that's rebellious.
And who are they practicing on?
The tactic that was used on George Floyd, that knee on the neck tactic, that was learned in Israel.
Yep.
So they're not getting these billion-dollar budgets so that they can come back to our community and police our communities better and make life better for us. They're getting these billion-dollar budgets because they're criminalizing our communities. And they want to police us and oppress us. They want to police us and kill us. They want to police us and knock out of us the willingness to fight for our own people. That's what they're getting these billion-dollar budgets for, and these weapons that you will see in a war zone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And our communities have turned into war zones.
Actually.
And the only one that can save us is us. So I'm not one, brother.
How are we gonna get to that? That's the thing. Like, this is a conversation, that we've had, throughout, and I'll just leave it to, the last century with some of our great thinkers, who've echoed these thoughts and these sentiments about the society that we're living in, the fact that we're unprotected as a people, completely just unprotected. All the laws are on the books, but there's no enforcement of the laws for our protection. Malcolm X even said that, but that goes back to the time of Frederick Douglass when he was talking about that. You know what I'm saying? The lack of protection for us, for a black man, in America. So,
but Nat Turner showed you the way to protect yourself. The Black Panther Party showed you the way to protect yourself. The Nation of Islam, the Fruit of Islam, showed you the way to protect yourself. Listen, I'm sorry, brother. My spirit is in a different place. We have to get to the point where we say enough is enough.
Right.
We got to listen. We got to get to the point. You're not gonna have another Holocaust. The Jewish people will never allow another Holocaust. They have a theme. They have a saying: never again. We like to start our history like you hear people say, this not my grandfather's revolution. What's that saying? They say this not my grandfather's revolution, or I ain't my grandfather. No, you're not your grandfather.
Right, exactly.
You're an extension of that. You moving forward. We like to restart our like, oh, this just happened. Like we the first one to be lied through or have a bill to be stuck and not be voted on, or we the first one to have them throw something at us just to appease a symbol without substance. Like we the first one to see black men killed in the street and white men who are convicted of killing black men in the street walk out of the court system as if we ain't the first one that this happened to. This is part of our history. So we can't come with a mentality like, oh, it begins today. No, this started 4 centuries ago. We 4 centuries into this, brother. 4.5 centuries plus into this. You know, a century is 100 years. You know how long 100 years is? Now do that 4 times. Well, damn. When are we going to wake up and say to ourselves, listen, if we want something to change out on these streets, we gotta change them. Nobody want to keep going every day, sitting in a courtroom, hoping and praying, and then we come out, we do a press conference. I gotta watch my sisters cry. I gotta watch men cry. It was men breaking down in that courtroom, crying because they felt like they hadn't done enough, and they're right. We have not done enough. Who wants to continue to wait for somebody else to change their condition if they refuse to? Why do we have to sit at the door and beg and hope? We should have lost hope in this system long time ago. We talked about Dr. King. They killed Dr. King. The government of the United States of America was convicted, found guilty in their own courts to be complicit in the death of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
The brother just came out the other day and confessed that he was part of a law enforcement plot to assassinate Malcolm. They killed Malcolm. We watched Fred Hampton movie, the Black Panther, and we seen them show you how the CIA and the government of the United States of America was involved in the assassination of Fred Hampton. Now, what we sitting here still waiting for them to pass a law of judgment on how the condition of our community will change?
Absolutely. What do we look
I don't have that. I'm sorry, but I don't have that spirit. I'm gonna let you. I don't have that spirit to keep sitting back and trying to figure out when they gonna do something different. When the hell are we gonna do something different? When the hell we gonna get up and decide I'm not taking it no more? When we gonna get out in the community and see our babies out of order and put our own children in check? You don't love your babies enough to put your own children in check? You can't go down on the street corner, and talk to a brother and explain to him what the hell is happening to us and how he needs to get off of the corner and stop making our community indecent so that these damn criminals can keep having excuses to come in our communities and kill us.
Right.
Ain't no game. We in the middle of a war and we fighting for our lives.
So we had a comment here, right here, brother. Can you see it?
That's right. You damn right it started more than 4 centuries ago. We can go all the way down into the Africa. We can go, I talked about it last week. You can go into the air. You can see what has happened to our people on every continent. Everywhere you go, Black people suffering. Everywhere in the world. Our condition ain't no different than the condition of our brothers and sisters that's in Europe, in England. They fighting and protesting. We hollering Black Lives Matter from Ferguson all the way into damn London, England. We watching Black people being enslaved in Libya after they removed Muammar Gaddafi, trying to get across the damn Atlantic into Italy. We drowning in the ocean still, the same as we drowned in the ocean coming off the west coast of Africa. We drowning in the ocean, crossing the sea, trying to get into Italy to freedom. And then when we get into Europe, they treat us like goddamn animals, even in Europe, and don't want us there. You go to Palestine. You go in the area where the Palestinian people are fighting right now, and you'll find that that's where the African presence is. The damn Israeli treat us like dirt in Israel. We are people who don't have love for us nowhere in the world that we are. Why are we going to continue to ask and beg for this European, for these demons, these wicked demons who don't give a damn about our lives except that it fits in their agenda to do something to change the condition of our people? I'm tired, brother.
I'm with you, brother. I'm
tired of our pain, brother. And we should all be tired of our pain. We are born out of pain. Our struggle is born out of pain. It ain't changed. I'm sorry, brother.
No, you good, man. They need to hear that. They need to hear that, because the bottom line is, and that was actually a pretty good segue into my next subject, which was going to be the Voting Rights Act was just pretty much, gutted, and now so the Republicans or the Senate pretty much decided not to support it. So the liberals or the progressives of the Democratic Party are now all upset at Joe Biden. So that goes right into that, because that's once again faith, trust, and belief in the system where the white supremacists take both sides of the argument. I mean, what are we doing? Do we want a soft racist, or hard racist. What difference does it matter? What do we want? Is what I'm hearing from you, brother. What do we want? What matters to us? What's important to us? The whole point of even creating this show is to really stress the importance of it's about what we need to do and stop looking for help, stop looking for leaders. The leader that we're looking for is in the mirror. Why is that so hard? Is it fear that's keeping us from it? I mean, the only thing I could think of is fear of power, fear of success, fear of the white man. Like what is it? And we'll oh good, we got about 10 minutes. So let's talk about that. What is it? Is it what are we not getting? Because how many, I mean, we've had over 5,000 of us lynched, okay, in this country. And we're still getting lynched, by the way. We're still getting lynched. Just had a lynching last week or 2 weeks ago. And the police in Louisiana, we're still getting lynched. So what is it going to take? It was an older brother, man, about 60 years old, in the interrogation room. These race soldiers lynched him and said that he committed suicide by hanging himself with his own shoestring. So we're still dealing with that. So I don't get it. Like I can't be quiet myself. Like I look at this stuff and I try to just, myself, because it's all I feel is that blood boiling. All I can see is more trauma, more pain, more suffering, more, and it's the trauma of it. It's the trauma that we've been carrying. Yeah, I guess the brother made a point of more than 4 centuries old. We get that. We just limited it to this continent. Okay, we have to give some kind of frame of context. We understand it's more than 4 centuries. It's more than 5 centuries. We've been dealing with this since right after the Moors in Spain. So we've been dealing with this for a minute. So we understand that. Okay, and these conversations probably have been happening by our ancestors way back then, trying to figure out how we gonna get these Spanish out of here. How we gonna get these people? So we've been dealing with that for a minute. We get it. But once again, we've had so many of our people decide that they're gonna have trust and faith in a system that's never delivered for them. And I don't understand what it'll take either. I mean, you don't have to be a rah-rah type of guy, or girl or guy to be out there to say, I'm going to stand up and fight the system. No one's saying that. But silence is complicity. You're not doing anything or saying anything or finding any way to contribute to the betterment of your people. You might as well just go over there and stay with them anyway. So what is it? Is it fear? Is it no faith in ourselves as a people? Is it lack of self-confidence? That's what I was looking for. Is it a lack of self-confidence, lack of self-knowledge? Because people, self-knowledge isn't the goal. Self-knowledge is the means to get to where we need to get to. Getting self-knowledge is not the goal. That's just a part of the process. So what is it? What, in your opinion, brother, what is it? What is it that's keeping us from finally saying this is it? Because our ancestors did that, right? Our ancestors did that. Look what happened in Haiti. They said, this is it. We're not dealing with this anymore. You just mentioned Nat Turner. This is it. And we don't know the untold amounts of rebellions and whatnot that's happened. But what is it with this generation of our people?
Well, brother, I have to go back to my teaching again, and I have to go back to the only thing I know in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. There is that same lesson that I was talking about before. It says, why does he fear now that he's a big man? Why does he fear now that he's a big man? And it says the devil taught him to eat the wrong foods. Well, that's very poetic language, very deep language to describe a condition. Our enemy have been our teacher. whether it's through education, whether it's through the media, whether uh, it's through our parents. Our enemies have been our teacher. And he put fear in our DNA. So those of us who have heard the stories how he would torture slaves and let other slaves watch, he would hang a mother up, split her stomach open, and then when the baby uh, would fall to the ground, he would take his boot heel and he would stomp the babies to death while the people were watching. He would have our pregnant mothers standing around, and he would take the father, take the man, and tie horses to each limb and whip the horses in different directions. And the horses would pull our bodies apart. He would take our bodies and bury them up to the head and pour molasses on our heads. The ants would come and eat us away until we die. This is the kind of life that we have lived. And this is the history of fear being bred in us as a people. So part of what we suffer from, part of the reason why we are in the condition that we're in, brother, is because of fear. Then there is the senator from Virginia who on the floor, the Senate, when they were talking about the establishment of Howard University, he asked the question, why would we create a university for the Negro? He said that we have done everything in our power to remove the light from the mind of the Negro. The only thing left is for us to remove the possibility of them ever seeing the light. You put a people in gross darkness and ignorance and couple that with fear. And that's how you make a nigga. That's how you make a Negro. And if you put a people in a condition of fear and ignorance, then what can't you do to them? Because now you have removed every possibility of their resistance. So that's the fight that we are in. We are fighting to remove fear. We are fighting to remove ignorance. And I can't say what it will take, brother, other than teaching and examples. Those of us who know have to do. Those of us who have knowledge have to share knowledge. We have to organize. We have to develop. We have to teach. We have to guide. We have to instruct until our people get to a point where they're up. Now, I believe it's happening. That's the good news. I believe it's happening. I don't think that the current generation, as they get more knowledge of self and more knowledge of the enemy, I believe that the current generation is going to be a generation that will bring freedom to our people. They're fearless. And with the internet and their access to the internet, knowledge is abound to them from around the world. So you see them, they're not even going to college. They're taking Instagram and Facebook and social media and making hundreds and thousands of dollars. And then when you hear them talking, they're talking about independent. They're talking about being on their own.
Respond to this comment right here, brother.
You make a Brother, I'm not responding to Brother Michael. I've been knowing Brother Michael for almost 30 years.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Been
All
knowing
right.
Brother Michael for almost
All
30
right.
years. But I will say this much. I'm not gonna say that.
Okay.
Sometimes he says things I think to jar people. It probably affects those who see it for the first time more than me. But I do agree with him in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make a, we're not ever going to be free as long as we're being handed out nothing. Go back to the lesson again. I don't know why we in this lesson so deep in this
Something.
call,
Yeah.
but it says we love the devil because the devil gives us nothing. Now, in a few more days, they're going to be giving us these checks. Are they giving them to everybody?
Everybody.
They're giving them to everybody. But those kind of things make you believe in a reality that doesn't exist. Now, I will tell you this. I learned this from my teacher. I will share this. One of the things that's going to help us along the way, brother, is that the American economy is going to be broken. When the American economy is broken, some people listening, sometimes, we just think you're just talking, right? It's just emotional. Yeah. Go back and listen to the head of the Federal Reserve last year when he talked about the stimulus payments. And he talked about the injections of money that the Federal Reserve was putting in the American economy to keep the American economy going. He said, we can't keep this up. Mm. He said that the Federal Reserve cannot support the American system. That eventually it's going to bolster, it's going to break. Now, the economy is hit, brother. Mm-hmm. We don't understand how the closing of restaurants and businesses are really a bigger indicator of the health of the country. We don't understand that they had to slaughter millions of cows and chickens during the pandemic, at the height of the pandemic, because the restaurants were closed and people weren't going to these restaurants to get food. The schools were closed. So what did that do for the school lunch program? We don't understand that the loss of these chicken and cattle is I think it's 1,000 different products that you get from one cow alone. Milk, your eggs that you get from the chicken. The loss of the chicken and the livestock caused a ripple effect, because that meant that those who were growing feed for these animals were growing less feed, less produce. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Same thing. So famine is coming to the country. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Joe Biden is fighting right now. You talking about the voters' right? Why do we think they passed all of this money, this $1 billion bill that deals with the infrastructure of this country? You think that the water problem in Flint, Michigan was an isolated incident? America has an aging water structure. Right now, cities are bleeding water. We here in this country, while cities are bleeding water, there's a heat wave going across the country. Drought is coming. Did you see the news yesterday?
I did.
Tornadoes that touched down. Now we're going into tornado, hurricane season.
Yeah.
So that means natural disasters and even flooding is going to increase in the midst of a pandemic. In the midst of a pandemic, this country is under attack. And it ain't under attack from China or North Korea or Russia, where they got you looking. Those countries waiting in the wing as they see America buckle. The economy of this country is going to fold. The healthcare system is already folding. The education system is folding. Go look at the news. Thousands of children not going back into the school now that the schools are reopening. What is that going to do for the economy? What does that mean for the future of education in this country?
Yep.
What does that mean for those who are going to lead the country in the future? You seen them folk run into the Capitol on January 6th? Revolution, civil war is on the horizon. You ain't got to believe it. My teacher taught this over and over again. I ain't saying nothing new, but it's happening. Now you can sit here if you want. We can sit here if we want, like a bunch of, excuse my language, damn fools, and wait to see what happens. Or we can put ourselves in a position where if and when this thing falls, that we are able to sustain and take care of ourselves. You don't believe that the grocery store won't have food, but you went to Fry's and Kroger's and Walmart during the pandemic, and food was off the shelf, water was off the shelf. People were fighting over toilet paper.
Yep.
We were creating message groups to tell you where to go to find toilet paper. Now, you can sit and you can think that you're going to always be able to go to the grocery store and get your favorite Andy Caps, or you get your favorite chicken or your favorite beef. You keep on believing that and not store food up in your house and learn how to can the food that you have. Oh, brother, it's something coming. And when it comes, won't be no arguing with us. We're going to see the true colors in the face of this country. And some people might not like to hear it, but we're going to see the true colors and face of this country. You see them people that still believe that Donald Trump should be president? That man said he'll be back in office by August. You think he's just talking about that? He ain't got no support and no backing? There are people who absolutely in this country, they attacked the Capitol, brother, because they believe that the election was robbed from him. They had a hanging noose outside the Capitol. They went in there with rope and ties to find Senate and the vice president, the president of the United States of America. They wanted to hang that man. We ain't talking about them coming after black people.
Mm-hmm. They went after their own.
They coming after their own. So then what position you think you stand in? Man, listen, brother, we ain't gonna have to keep talking to black people about what's happening in this country, that we need to do something for ourselves and stop depending on this country. This country is going to force us to do it. And it really ain't America forcing us to do it. Whether you like it or not, believe it or not, my teacher has already said it. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said it for 40 years. God is after us. And he wants to make us his people and give us a nation of our own. You ain't got to believe it. You can say it's religious talk. You can, whatever you want to say, however you want to, you can take it or let it alone. I personally really am not caring. But we watching it happen. We don't have to talk about it happening. Turn on CNN, turn on MSNBC, turn on ABC. Everything that we're talking about, you watching it happen in this country. And you're going to sit back and you're going to be distracted.
Yeah.
You're going to sit back and you're going to hope and wish and dream. I'm sorry, brother. I know I'm being long-winded, but I have a lot to say, brother. You know, but I would just say this, brother, to answer your question, and it is to say if that's what it's going to take. There's going to have to be conditions that arise in this country that force us into a situation where fear and ignorance will be either our death, or we will become courageous and wise in order to survive.
Absolutely. And I see it's more than just writing on the wall, brother. It's big old graffiti and big old murals, you know what I'm saying? And some of us are just doing this. You know, we don't even want to, because there's a party going on down the street. And I've been noticing a lot of that. You know, like you said, it's not a religious thing, but as the days of Noah was, so shall this coming of the Son of Man be. What were the people doing? They were partying, they were marrying, they were drinking. Everybody was just doing their thing, watching Noah build the ark, right? They watching this dude build the ark. Why are you doing that? That's like us. Why y'all doing that? Well, it's really about, we have to preserve ourselves. There's a big storm coming. You just heard what the brother said. There's tornadoes going on. We in a live pandemic. There's drought here on the West Coast. It ain't just the West Coast either. There's drought on the East Coast too. Um, all this inclement, and then we got this heat wave, this bubble of heat that's sitting over this country, man, and it's just baking everybody, especially here in the Southwest. But this entire country is going through it right now, just like you said, and under attack by nature, under attack by these forces that all we gotta do is put our hands up and watch the work happen. But so many of us are so involved in partying and BS and having fun and want to do this and do that. And it's okay to enjoy your life, right, brother? It's okay to enjoy your life, what you got going on. But when you see the writing on the wall that we need to go in our little hobbit holes over here for a little bit in order to protect ourselves while the storm comes over. And once the storm blows over, we come on out and we keep on living. It's going to take just what you said, brother. And I wanted you to get to that point to bring that out, man. It's going to take catastrophic activity. Literally, what was that saying? The people don't believe that the enemy is real until the enemy's at the door.
Brother, you see people at the club and they partying, and the gunmen just jump out and start shooting people down.
That's when
Look
people
at the number of mass shootings. At the last I checked, it was over 200 mass shootings in this country to this day. I go to the grocery store, brother, with my family. I don't put distance between me and my wife. I'm watching the doors. I'm finding the exit sign. People are losing their minds.
Same way, brother.
That's why. So look, the partying, brother, is going to increase. The drinking and the drugging, that's going to increase. The people sleeping around with everybody. You're going to do everything you can to try and escape the reality. That's all that's happening. People say, we don't think to change our condition. We don't know how to find peace. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for peace. We're looking for pleasure. But we're trying to find peace and pleasure in the same way the world has always offered it to us.
Right.
So all that's going to increase as the trials increase. That's going to increase, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be disrupted. See, brother, when earthquakes come, ain't nobody dancing, brother, but the ground under your feet moving.
Yep.
When the hurricane come, with the brother, the minister said they look like women dancing in those twirling dresses. Ain't nobody dancing but the tornado. Oh, brother, it's coming. See, we are people who have had so much in terms of warning, so much in terms of teaching. We've turned a blind eye to all of our teachers. We make mockery of our teachers, brother. We laugh at our leaders. We make jokes about them. They gave their life, and we making comedy routines about those who sacrificed their life for. You don't find no other people doing that, brother. Look at the disrespect we have of Black women. It don't surprise me when somebody takes the life of a child, or when a parent or father is not around to raise the child that he produced. No respect for the Black woman. You think that the Black woman is the mother of civilization? You gonna disrespect her? When life is gonna be okay for you? Look at Black men. Look at how Black men are killed in the street. I was talking to one of my dear friends who lost a cousin who was being robbed, and the robbers not just decided to rob him, but to kill him after they rob him. Kill him in the process of robbing him. You think that you're not going to pay a price, brother? You think that we are talking about George Floyd and the lynching and that what I described to you and the torture that they put us through, you think you're gonna get away with killing black men like that and don't have no consequence?
Mm-hmm.
We are foolish if we believe that. See, brother, it's separation or death. We can't change our condition until we separate. And it's death that's coming for the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And if we with the enemy when death comes, then whatever he gets, we get. You know what they call it in court? They call it guilt by association.
Yep.
Well, it's not a game. See, we think it's a game. We think we just playing. You listen to your little brother, and I'm talking what I'm saying right now by God's grace. I'm telling you what my teacher said. I'm pointing these things. You think it's a game. You think this just talk. You dismiss it. That's no big deal. Brother, you talked about Noah. They dismissed Noah. They dismissed Jesus. They dismissed Moses. They dismissed Abraham. They're always dismissing truth. Yeah, you fire and brimstone, and, brother, all of these things that we dealing with in this country as a people and around the world are very real. We got choices to make. See, you got a choice. You have children. You tell your children, hey, do such and such and so, because if you don't do such and so, this is going to happen. Well, then when they don't do it, the consequence comes. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Now, we think we can get away with not getting ourselves together. We believe that. You think this is about a civil rights thing? You think this is about a social justice thing? You think that's what it is? This is human. This is a divine thing that we are talking about. Justice is divine. This is universal.
Yep.
There are certain laws in the universe that every living creature has to obey. Well, it don't matter if you're ignorant or not about it. It don't matter if you know or don't know. You could be 50 years old and step out in front of a bus. It may kill you at full speed. You can be 5 years old and ignorant to the knowledge of what's happening, the danger you putting yourself in. That bus can kill a 5-year-old like it killed the 50-year-old. I know that's a little small example, but what I'm saying is it don't matter if you know or you don't know. There are certain laws in the universe that we should be acquainted with if we want to make it to freedom, justice, and equality. Do you really believe as much pain has been caused in this world by the condition of this world? You think that we're going to be able to go into a new world that we're talking about the same way? You think you're going to remove white folk but still act like white folk act for the last 6,000 years and be okay?
Some of us do.
You're a liar and a thief and a murderer and a cheating, fornicating, adulterer, immoral man, immoral woman. You think that you're going to be a drunkard and a drug addict and that's going to be accepted in the world that we build? You think that's going to be okay? Who wants that? We're talking about doing something totally new. You've been tricked. Satan has deceived the whole world. Now imagine if Satan has deceived the whole world, brother, and you and I are part of the world.
Absolutely.
No, this is not a game, man. We got to change our condition. We have to improve as a people. We have to do better. And if we do better and we change our own condition and our own thinking, then that quite naturally will change the condition that we live under. That's why no other people, for the most part, suffers like we suffer in the world, because we've been put in the worst condition. But now it's time for the black man and woman to rise. We're going to rise in America. We're going to rise in Africa. We're going to rise in the Caribbean. We're going to rise in South America. We're going to rise in Europe. Wherever we are, we're going to rise back to the top. The question that's on the table is, who of us will be part of the rise? Will it be
Mm.
those who want to keep their mind and their heart in the old world? Or will it be those who have a renewing of the mind, renewing of the heart, that go into the new world? Well, the new world is going to be as a result of the condition of the changing of the thinking of the people. So if you don't change your thinking, how can you remain? Two things can't occupy the same space at the same time. A rising force will break a falling force. See, this is a reality that we're looking at that we don't want to pay attention to. So yeah, we do it in our own way with the gardening, and we talk about health. And you got the TWG, and this is from our Ministry of Information, and we train and we learn how to defend ourselves, and we talk about spiritual growth and development, and we learn to pray and fast and meditate and do all of these wonderful things. We do it in a very lightweight, very palatable, very easy way. But the bottom line is you're creating a people, you're creating a change in the people, a change in the thinking, a new community, a new reality that's going to produce a new world. The old world ain't going to be allowed.
Right. A new paradigm.
The paradigm shift, brother. We talking about the retrograde, and we understanding the sun. We got a little, I don't mean no insult, but we got a little understanding of the stars and the alignments in the planet. The scriptures talk about it being signs in the heaven. We don't have a full understanding, but we got some understanding. You know that a new age and a new time is coming in, but we trying to take a little of the world with us.
And that's the problem. And that's why that generation in Egypt, they couldn't cross over into Jordan because they were still carrying the ways of Egypt. So that whole generation had to die off first. And then Joshua and Caleb was able to take the younger generation over because they didn't have that mentality that we're talking about. So it sounds to me, man, that before we get concerned about what's going on out there with these law, we got to start at home first, and that's with us. And that's why, and it was a perfect segue because we're about to end up. Now we got 8 minutes, so that's why, I wanted you on, brother, because I wanted you to come full circle, right? What you did into the L.O.C. because you started talking about the ministries. So. Just real quick, family, once again, please like, please share, and please comment. Please hit the notification bell if you want to get further notifications on our lives, if you're on YouTube, and if you're on Facebook. Like, share, comment, like, share, comment. The Waking Giant News Show. We are here for the community. We are part of the Ministry of Information of the Phoenix L.O.C. Local Organizing Committee for Justice or Else. I have the chair, Brother Chamikis Muhammad, right here on this episode of the Waking Giant News Show. And brother, if you could please close us out with a few parting words. But first, let us know a little bit about L.O.C., the Phoenix L.O.C., how people can get involved, the Cash App, the work, and then a closing word. We have 7 minutes.
Okay. Again, brother, thank you for bringing me on. You pulling me out of the dark, brother. I've been sitting back in the cut, right?
That's my job, brother. My job.
I appreciate you. I can't say no to you when you ask me. And as the chair of the Ministry of Information, I'm happy to be a supporter of the work that you're doing. And this is important, brothers and sisters. When you look at the Phoenix L.O.C. and look at the work that we're doing, whether it's in agriculture, as I mentioned earlier, or whether it's in the self-defense training or the organizing of our brothers and sisters for defense of our community, or in economic development, when you look at our Be Ready program, you look at the program that we have put together to teach our entrepreneurs how to do business better. Or you look at what we've done in health. When the pandemic first started, we went straight into building the immune system, and we put out a health guide to tell our people, this is what you need to do. And we put out a mental health guide. As a matter of fact, with our brother Sam and Be More, we're part of a monthly mental health discussion. Some of you have seen it posted on my page. So we do that kind of work. We believe it's important through our ministry of information to get out the news to our people, our own news, our own perspective on what's happening in the country. We do put those things together, and we put them together and more with an independent mindset, a mindset of self-reliance and self-determination. We are looking at all of our ancestors who have went in front of us and the great work that they're doing, and we're asking ourselves, how do we complete that work? So we're a group of men and women that are diverse. Some of us Muslims, some of us Christian, some of us followers of the Ifa, some of us just spiritual people, some of us are college educated, some are not. Some have a lot of money and some don't, right? But we come together as brothers and sisters in unity, and we pool our resources together. As a matter of fact, we just opened up a summer program at the beginning stages of our school, and we do need your support to donate to the Cash App, and in the subject line put school, right, to help us as we continue to grow our school and develop the educate our own children. What we're saying is we have the power and ability to do for ourselves. We don't have to ask anybody to do for us. We can do it for ourselves. And then more we can do. We can buy land. We can produce food on a mass level. We can open up grocery stores and other institutions. And if we want to get into politics, which we will, we can create our own political power, our own political agenda, put our own people in office with our agenda to get out of this country what we can get for ourselves. If you're that type of brother and sister that believe in self-reliance, self-determination, we have an orientation class. We have an orientation class. Our next class is going to be on July the 10th. You can go to the phxloc .org, the phxloc.org, and you can choose to volunteer or join the Phoenix L.O.C., and we'll enroll you in our next orientation class, but we'll also let you know what our next move is, and there are many of them. We invite you to be a part of that. We also have part ownership of the Grassroots Bookstore, the only Black-owned bookstore in the state of Arizona, and one of the only Black-owned bookstores in the Southwest region. We dare say the only one, at least between New Mexico, Nevada, and Arizona, right? But you can definitely come 1145 East Washington and support the bookstore and get your reading on and be a part of that. So I forgot the rest that you asked me to say, brother, but
that was it, man. That was it. Yeah, where people can find the LOC, how people can see what we're doing, the website, which I put into the comments. And you did let everyone know of the orientation, and they'll get more information by going to the website, signing up, and making sure they show up at the orientation. All I wanted you, we got 3 minutes. I just wanted you to give a closing word, brother, for the family. I want to thank, first of all, once again, I'm your host, Brother Jay. I want to thank everyone for hanging with us. Really appreciate it. We got much more coming. So hang with us. Your Phoenix L.O.C., your Ministry of Information. We are here for the community. Brother, please close us out with a few words.
I would say to my brothers, please excuse my passion that I have. It's all out of love. My desire is not to offend anyone, but to share with you some of the wisdom that I've learned from my teacher. And I would ask that you look into what was shared today and ask yourself a question. Can we apply these things as solutions to the problems of our people? And as you have that conversation, ask yourself another question. And that question is, what will you do in the application of those solutions? What will you do? And I hope that after hearing what has been said today, that we will all get up together as brothers and sisters and work hard to change the condition of our people and be willing to give our lives for that purpose. So thank you, Brother Jermaine. Again, thank you for the Waking Giant. Thank you for your hosting. Thank you for all that you do, brother. Definitely appreciate your spirit and your work and everything you're attempting to do in the name of freedom and liberation.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate you for coming on. Once again, thank you, family, for tuning in to another episode of the Waking Giant News Show. We will be back, family. Be blessed. Peace.
Thank you, brother. Peace.
Peace.